My name is Jason Brooks, and starting when I was in college, I knew I was interested in literature, so I started taking English classes, literature classes, and I realized that with comparative literature, I would be able to do both literature and language study, which is kind of the other thing I'm really interested in. So right now, my research is I look at ancient Greek literature generally and modern Russian poetry and find the connections between those, because a lot of those poets in Russia at the time were very influenced by and inspired by the ancient worlds. Kind of as early as I can remember, actually, there would be email sort of advertisements to complete one, and I never really got on board doing it, not for any reason other than just the time it would take. But I kind of finally realized after I built 2 web classes for Penn State, I realized, I had kind of a unique set of skills, so I decided that, well, maybe now's the time to kind of put together one of these portfolios to sort of share my experience with the online courses, how I use technology there, but also how I use technology when I do teach in the classroom. I think the benefits are about as limitless as the creativity of the person using the technology. I really see that as long as you're using it in a pedagogically sound way, the technology can't hurt in the classroom, especially as people become more and more reliant on technology. I think there are limitations too, and if an instructor is just using technology because they're being told by the dean they need to use technology, or the department or their students say, we want more technology, I think it really quickly becomes a gimmick, and then it just doesn't work. It becomes technology for the sake of technology, not for the sake of better pedagogy. So I think that it has to be a balance, but I really see that with the way that technology is improving every day. I mean, look at, we're doing this interview. I'm sitting on my cell phone in a courtyard in Malibu, and you guys are sitting in a conference room in Pennsylvania. First thing you have to do is make sure you understand it so that you don't run into pitfalls, but I think also to really play around with it outside the classroom, just on your own time. The key is just to say, okay, is there technology that would make that more effective? And then make sure that it actually works before you just decide to start using it. Because I think otherwise students get frustrated. Certainly not a computer science major or anything. There's online tutorials for everything. Penn State has all kinds of resources too, where you can learn how to build web pages and take classes on how to make Angel work more to your advantage. And I think it does take effort on the part of the instructor. And so I think it's really just a matter of making the commitment, say, I want to make my class better and more current. I want it to be a 21st century class. I think it's definitely getting easier, because I think that all of these technologies are becoming more user-friendly. I think the whole Web 2.0 thing has really made it more, everything has become more approachable. You just download a program, and then there's always a wizard that walks you through it. I think it's actually just getting easier and easier, but I think we also learn as we do. So the more technology we use, the better we become at the new technology, because we sort of have a basis of knowledge with all that. That's why I say I think if you want to do this, there's fewer and fewer excuses to not do it. Well, I think that it was actually a really valuable thing for me to go through. I mean, I sort of had all the ideas that I put down into the portfolio already in my head, but just from the standpoint of organizing those ideas in my brain a little bit into a more cohesive sort of philosophy or something on the issue on technology in the classroom, I think it helped me work through some of those things, and I think it also made me realize things I was doing well and the things that maybe I really should improve. But also I think, so even if all you do for technology in the classroom is use really great PowerPoints, well, that's fine, but the portfolio also makes you, build a good web page and integrate different media into that web page. And also there was the links section, I think, that was required on the portfolio, where you have online resources, or you have links to resources you've created. And I think that also is good, because if you don't have any of those, then, maybe I really need to start having resources for my students that are outside resources or online things that I've created. So I think it was just a really good way to sort of tie everything I'd been doing into a more cohesive whole. And now it's great because I can present this like on a job interview. I can say, I also have this certificate, and if you'd like to see the portfolio, here's the website. And then it's a way to sort of advertise myself that I'm up to date, I use technology, and I know how to do it. The biggest challenge for me was actually putting a cogent teaching philosophy down, I don't want to say on paper, but down on paper, onto a screen. It just took time. Honestly, I didn't really work with my coordinator. I'm sort of an independent worker when it comes to things like this. I also built this portfolio when I was teaching English in France for a year, so I didn't have the opportunity to just walk into my coordinator's office and say, hey, I have a question about this, or what do you think? I was kind of on my own anyway. Like I say, I was living in France, and I got to travel all over Europe for that year. So So I got to go to Greece, and I took all kinds of photographs of the archaeological ruins, of the art in the museums, and I've done that when I've gone to museums in the United States too, because I want to use those in the classroom. And so I just realized, because I use Flickr for my own personal stuff, here's a good chance to really put all of this material together for my students to review, to see, even those extra pictures that don't make it into the lectures. Here's a place for them to go and look at these photos and study them. The other things, just the other websites, I think one of them that's on my portfolio is just the link to the Penn State Library CAMS page, the classics page, with all kinds of resources. Those things that I already refer my students to, it just seemed natural to include those because I think it's good for my students to visit these sites, and so I think it's good for people to see those sites that I have my students visit. I would definitely recommend this to other students, particularly if they're heading towards the job market soon. I think it helps to have sort of some kind of formal recognition of the way you do things. And this does that. This says, all right, this person uses technology in the classroom in an effective way, and Penn State approves it. So I would say that it's very much worth the time if you're already doing the technology in the classroom. Only reiterate that I think that it was a really good experience for me to go through building that portfolio. I got to chart my evolution, which a lot of it had to do with where technology was, using overheads when I was first teaching, and I was using very basic PowerPoint. And that's evolved into online courses with flash lectures and other kinds of media